My bamboo and vampire shrimp tank is a disaster. 1 year ago, it looked like this. Now, the narrow Leaf Jungle Vallisneria has completely taken over, while Duckweed and Dwarf water lettuce practically cover the surface, blocking most of the light and restricting water flow. Let's see if we can bring this tank back to its glory days. Also, stay tuned until the end, I've got a special surprise for you. I'm going to start by removing all of the Dwarf water lettuce. I originally thought this was what I wanted in the tank, but now I'm not so sure. My original plan was to have a moderately high flow, but these floating plants are completely preventing that. I also don't like how they make the tank look so dull by blocking out a lot of the light. I could reduce the number of floating plants, but they don't do well in fast-flowing water and just get pushed around too easily. Next, I'll scoop out the duckweed using a glass mug and a net. I'm doing this because I have several nanofish and short-nosed shrimp, which are about 2 inches in size, and I don't want to accidentally scoop any of them out with just the net. The glass mug lets me spot anything I might catch and put it back. It took about an hour to clean out all of the duckweed in this 55-gallon tank, but on the positive side, I'll blanch it and feed it to my other shrimp tanks. If you'd like to learn more about blanching and feeding duckweed to your shrimp, check out the video in the top right corner. Look at that jungle val. Some of it is nearly 3 feet long. It's incredible to see how this plant has spread across the tank in just a year. It's finally time to pull most of it out. As you can see, the plant sends out runners, and then a new batch starts to grow. One mistake I made was not cutting the runners when pulling out the plants. Some runners ended up under my driftwood, so when I pulled the plants out, the piece in the back got dislodged and floated to the surface. I almost had a panic attack, thinking I'd have to drain the tank and re-glue it, but luckily I was able to pin it down with 2 5-pound river stones. Talk about a close call. I'm going to break the leaves by hand instead of cutting them with scissors. This will give the jungle val a more natural look rather than a uniform height. I'll also replant a few bunches to make it look denser in the back corner. This plant grows quickly, so it will soon fill out even more. I placed 2 Seachem Flourish root tabs into the substrate. They'll slowly break down and provide additional nutrients. Now, it's time for a water change. I'll replace about 10 gallons, which should be plenty. While the tank drains and refills, let me share a few tips with you. Tip number 1. As you know, this is my bamboo and vampire shrimp tank. I have 6 bamboo shrimp and 11 vampire shrimp here, and they thrive in fast-flowing water. In a tank of this size, it's best to have a filter with strong flow or consider adding a wave maker. When I feed the tank shortly, you'll see the wave maker I use. Tip number 2. Since these shrimp are filter feeders and rely on the water column for food, run your hand through the plants and stir the substrate a little during maintenance. This puts floating edible particles back into the water column for them to feed on. And tip number 3. With a moderately fast flow, choose peaceful tank mates that can thrive in this setup. I have White Cloud Mountain Minnows, Asian Rummy-Nose Rasboras, Harlequin Rasboras, Kubatai Rasboras, Ruby Tetras, Rummy-Nose Tetras, Furcata Rainbowfish, Celebes Rainbowfish, Albino Cherry Barbs, Otocinclus Catfish, and both a Hillstream and a Borneo Loach. With the tank refilled, I'll add 5 milliliters of Seachem Prime as this is a fairly large tank. While the water added was already dechlorinated, a little extra will help detoxify any ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate. Next, I'll add 5 milliliters of Seachem Clarity to bind the fine particles stirred up from uprooting the plants. This will make it easier for the filter to catch them, helping to clear the water. If the water gets cloudy, that means the product is doing its job. Lastly, I'll add 10 milliliters of Seachem Stability to introduce beneficial bacteria, as quite a lot was likely removed when I took out most of the plants. One of my favorite things to do is feed this tank because I love watching all the inhabitants become active once I add some food. I primarily feed a mixture of ground up fish flakes, algae wafers, and even some powdered shrimp food. As I mentioned earlier, I've got a special surprise for you, but just bear with me for a minute. All the plants I pulled out, which was about 100 dwarf water lettuce and 20 narrow leaf jungle vallisneria, I sold to my local fish store for $50. That's only a third of the price since it was a wholesale deal, but if I'd sold them directly to consumers, I could have easily made $150 or more. If you have an excess of plants in your tanks, try doing the same, or at least trade them in for store credit. If you're interested in buying plants from me, check out my Etsy store in the description below. Alright, back to the surprise. With the $50 I earned, I picked up a new species of fish for this tank that I absolutely love. Some of you may already know what it is, but for those of you who don't, meet the Panda Corydoras. These peaceful, bottom-dwelling fish are similar to pygmy Corydoras, but are slightly larger and much more colorful. I'll be creating a video dedicated to them in the coming weeks. With the maintenance completed, I'm going to cover the tank back up since the water is fairly close to the rim and a lot of these fish are jumpers. For those of you with rimless tanks and without lids, consider lowering your water level by about 2 inches from the top if you wish to keep your fish safe. I really enjoy seeing my shrimp in community tanks and observing how they interact with their tank mates and environment. It's also fascinating to watch the other inhabitants engaging with their surroundings. The Otocinclus Catfish, holding onto the jungle val while it feeds on algae and biofilm, and the hillstream and Borneo loaches grazing for algae and edible plant matter throughout the tank. You may have noticed I didn't scrape my glass. These fish all help keep it crystal clear. If you could design the perfect community tank, what size would it be, and what inhabitants would you include? Let me know down below. If you'd love to learn more about bamboo and vampire shrimp, check out the following videos, and please consider subscribing. I'm Andy, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.